first time on television. And Jerry informed me that this will go out on the web and everything, and I may become world famous. Well, some of you may know that I've been doing some substituting at the high schools in the last few years. Well, here I am again, substituting. I hope you all won't need to have security called to keep you in order. Well, I got back from a vacation not long ago, about a week. A most strange vacation. It involved too much driving. It involved a very, very bad motel room. More driving. Making it almost to Canada. But I got to spend time with family. So, in that sense, it all was just fine. But I didn't need to have a cold in the process. I didn't have to do too much driving on the way back. Now remember, we're driving and we have our new puppy in the back. And we also have our 11-year-old grandson. So we're having quite a time doing 13-hour days driving. Yes, big ouch. What was that called? That was called overextending myself, thinking I could do more than I could do. Of course, when I was younger, I could do that without too much trouble. I forget that I'm not what I once was. But I am gaining a little wisdom as time goes on. A little bit. So, anyhow, I'm going to make some references as I go through here to our vacation in a little more detail, a few spots. But I imagine that most of you are familiar with the poem Footprints, where, you know, there are two sets of footprints walking across the sand. God and this man who's making the observations, and he gets to the point where there are only one set of footprints. Well, this man makes the assumption that he's walking alone. And when he gets the chance to ask God this, God says, "No, I was carrying you." And I've been going through kind of some of that at this point in my life. I've had some interesting reflections, both on the positive side and some on the not so good side in my life in the past, and you know, so that has a lot of meaning for me right now. One of the things that I get out of that poem mostly is that we never get through this life on our own. You know, however much, and I happen to be one from a family that definitely believed in what I refer to as rugged individualism, that you attack all your problems yourself, you do all the things yourself, you rely on yourself. Well, I can tell you for sure, it don't work. Absolutely doesn't work. So, and along those lines, there are a few things that really make you realize you don't get through this on your own. That's when you come up with some health problems, you know, and you find yourself that the bank account isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. You know, you wind up with a sudden change in jobs. I spent almost my entire career in construction. Construction is notorious for you know, changing jobs from one place to another. The steadiness of work makes is something that plays into your jobs a lot. And I worked in an area that had the high desert of California. Spent most of my career there, a lot of it, and no one contractor could keep a crew going throughout the year. There wasn't that much business, so we'd be jumping from one to another and back again. So uncertainty was something I had to learn to deal with. So back to the footprints and walking through. It's never been easy for me to ask for people to help me. I've been pretty good at being willing to help others. There are a couple places in the New Testament where Paul refers to our walk with the Lord as a race. And we need to strip away the things that get in our way of being successful in that race. And as my life has gone on, things have popped up that I've had to let go of. But I can't say for certain that I'm anywhere close to getting rid of them all. But along those lines, there have been a few instances that I've seen where very dramatically the sense of help in our lives, in our endeavors, have come right forward to me. One of them was in watching one of the Olympics several years back, probably a couple of decades back now. And it was a situation where a man running a race, all the other competitors, comes around to the last turn, and he pulls up lame, pulls a muscle in his calf. He can barely even walk towards the finish line. And somebody jumps out of the stands. It's his father. He runs over and grabs him and helps him to the finish line. That act disqualified him in the race, but that act is what qualified him as a good Samaritan, as a true father. And our Father in heaven does that for us. When we hit a spot where we feel like we can't go on, He's there to carry us. That carrying may be a result of someone He has sent to you to do just that, to carry you through. I haven't been good at accepting that. We need to keep our eyes open to that, and keep our eyes open to that early in our problems, not at the end. Too often it's when all else fails, we pray. Well, if we see storm clouds on the horizon, we need to pray then, not when they're in the midst of the storm. There's another similar type incident not that long ago with some girls who were playing softball. And they had their teams, and they were, in the last inning, game is tied, and the batter hits a home run. Everybody's cheering her on. She's running around the bases, trips on first base, and breaks her leg. She can't continue. But if one of her own teammates comes out to help her, she's disqualified. And she's deemed out. It's not getting her home run, winning the game. The opponents, recognizing this whole situation, picked her up, carried around the bases. And as a result, the opponents did a wonderful thing. The game was not the object. It was the fellowship, the sportsmanship that was important. We get caught up in winning. We forget to be human beings relating to other human beings who are all on the same earth, going through the same problems. And we have to reach out to each other. There are a couple other things over the years that stories I've come to know and have been told, read about, and like. And one in particular is one about an area in an agricultural area that was having a tremendous drought. And they all the people in the area decided, well, we must get together and pray. So they called everybody together on this particular night. And everybody comes. And there's one boy who brings an umbrella. That's praying with believing and expecting. And too often, we lack that in our prayers. We kind of throw it up there as you might say, as a football term, and like a Hail Mary. You know what I mean? Oh, I don't know what else to do. Let me just throw this thing. Well, let's just throw a prayer up there. We need to have an expectation that God will answer our prayers. It may not be the answer we want, but we have to have an expectation that He will answer our prayer. On the other side of that is a story about a man who a hurricane was coming to his area, and he decided that after the news report said that it's going to be really bad, and people who can get out. Well, he said, I'm going to stay. Then the next morning a truck comes through with loudspeakers saying that everybody needs to get out. This area is going to flood. And I said, no, I'm going to stay. God's going to save me. I know that God's going to save me. And so then next, as the floodwaters come up, a boat comes through. And they say, hey, come on, get in. We'll take you to safe ground. Oh no, God's going to save me. Next thing he knows, he's on the roof of his house. The helicopter comes by, and he says to them, oh no, God's going to save me. When he gets to heaven, and has this conversation with God, he says, I expected you were going to save me. And he said, well, I sent you news reports. I sent you a warning. I sent you a boat. And I sent you a helicopter. And you wouldn't listen to any of that. You wouldn't pay any attention to that. So, you got the result that you see here. We can do that too. We can be so insistent on how God is going to answer our prayers that we miss the solutions. We blind ourselves to our own solution to our own problem because we are blinded by what our vision of things are. I'm going to go back to my vacation a little bit. there were some very interesting things that occurred on that vacation. A couple of cousins from different parts of my family got to meet each other. That one of them being our 11-year-old grandson, meeting his cousins. Everybody who's got a grandson, granddaughter, whatever, they are special. They're the most special thing there is, at least to us. And we believe our kid is the most fabulous there is. But anyhow, our grandson, one night we went and did some bowling. And he decides, hey, this is my game. I'm going to be a bowler. And so he's all enthused in that, and he passes up a chance to go to the water park to go do some more bowling. So, so he's serious. So what does he do? He goes on his tablet and he looks up about bowling, these videos, what are the right techniques, and all this stuff. 11 years old. It's a whole new world to me with all the videos and things that are out there and live. So, in the midst of coming back, we had some more long days in the car. And to reward him for being patient with us and also for getting us out of some really, really crazy traffic and road situations or construction and everything else. He's a tech wizard, so he got us through on the GPS in many instances where we were like, where are we? Where are we going? So anyway, so we stopped at night, our first night, and found a bowling alley, and we went bowling. The enthusiasm of a 11-year-old is just incredible. And so he would have gone, at that point, he would have gone through anything to go bowling. Anything. So, anyway, he was improving at a rate that is staggering to me. But as we were going on, we lost our way several times in a couple of cities. One was in Carson City, Nevada. I swear that somebody came into that town and switched all the direction signs around, because I could not possibly find my way out, even with GPS. So, but that was an interesting experience, because when things like that kind of go wrong, driver and co-pilot don't always agree. And so a little tension built up in there, and the like, and then we said we'd hand all of the devices over to our grandson Luke, and he'd get us all set up and everything else, and we're back on track. But in this whole process of this vacation, we got Abby, our dog, Luke, our grandson, and two grandparents in the front. And which of all of those did the best? Abby. She loves the car. Just absolutely, anytime we go anywhere in the car, she is just happy as can be. Right next to that was my grandson. Grandma and Grandpa, not so good at times. We had our little tussles. But on down the road a ways, we had really sobering experience. We weren't traveling on the freeways. We were doing a lot of the back roads. It was nice not to be on the freeway. The freeways get so monotonous and everything. We saw a lot of countryside. A lot of it was desert. And a lot more of it was desert. And even after that, there was more desert. Certainly not running out of space in this country. Guaranteed. But on one of those two-lane roads, there's a lot of passing and that sort of stuff that happens. Well, we came up on an accident that occurred just a short while before we got there. And someone was trying to pass a big rig and didn't allow enough space, and 2 life flights, and a fatality occurred. And that's a real sobering thing, particularly when you actually see the sheet over the body. You realize how real that is, and you never think when you're driving that you're at that kind of risk. Well, I'm in control, I can handle anything, but you're sharing the road with other people, and that makes a factor in there that we can't control. And that gave me a real thought back to something that a friend of mine many years ago told me. He would go down to Mexico. This is when I was in California. He and his friend would go down to Mexico to fish every year. And my friends kept trying to get this guy to commit to Christ. And every year, go through the same thing. Well, I'm not gonna do that now. I'll always have time later to do that. And every year, same thing. And they had an experience similar to what I just described. We were on one of the roads on the way back. There was someone that had been killed on the road there. And as they went around the accident and all night, my friend says to his friend, that guy didn't have a chance to make a decision later. And that is the way it is with all of us. All of our friends who may not be Christians yet. We, need to. That's what we're implored to do as Christians, is to spread the gospel. And it's so easy for us to not push the question to our friends and neighbors and the like, to give them the invitation, and maybe give it 2 times, 3 times. Maybe never stop giving the invitation. I know I have done less than I should have done, and I have not pushed ahead with the invitation to people when I should have. And that's one of the things now I'm focusing a lot more in my life to do, is to be a spokesperson, an ambassador for Christ. In that process, I have worked some on what I call my mini witness statement, where I talk about what God has done for me, how He's brought me through things. And I'm coming through something right now that's that I'm on the better side of it, is that I've had a long history of depression. And at times it's gotten about as bad as it can get. I had to fight with my insurance company health insurance company to try to get some treatment, some state-of-the-art treatment. And it was, I took it all the way to the head of the department. And they said, no. So I had to go out on my own and get treatment. And it has been quite effective. And I'm feeling better than I felt in many years. That's one of the reasons why I'm up here talking to you. Depression tends to make you want to withdraw from everything. You know, the things that you used to like, you don't do. People you like to hang out with, you don't hang out with so much anymore. So thank you, Lord. You know, the Lord helps in ways that aren't just a direct miracle cure. You know, blind cure. It works for people through doctors. You know, and we need to be very thankful of the fact that through the intelligence that God has given us, we've been able to make such huge improvements in our medical treatments. You know, that's a God thing. You know, we more try to say, oh, it's a science thing. No, it's a God thing. Because God gave us that ability, and we put it to good use. We can think of all the other things that we put to bad use. But if you think about it, I think about my own father. He had at the end of his life, he was having strokes and some other problems. And at the end of his life, it was a situation where he had a large aneurysm in the abdomen. It was a situation where the doctor told him, well, if we take you in to do surgery, you're likely to die of a heart attack because of your overall health situation. But if we don't go in to operate, you're almost certain to be dead in 6 months. You know, in this day and age now, that would be a fairly easy solve. You know, medical treatments are so much better now, so much more effective. But he wound up passing away from a heart attack in the recovery room in the hospital. It was very sad for me, of course, but because we knew all about what was leading up to it and that there was a high probability of that, it wasn't the shock that would have been if he just keeled over at home and also. But my point to that is how rapidly medical technology has moved ahead. The treatment for my own depression was something that 10 years ago would not have been available. You know, we're all benefiting from various things. My wife has had a couple of hip replacements. Others of you, I'm sure, have had, you know, knees, hips. Danny, for sure, tells you about his knee adventures. But we take that for granted. And not that long ago, we had just been wheelchair bound, homebound. And that's usually the spiral towards the end, once you start losing your mobility. I think I've veered off a little bit of where I wanted to go in this. Not that I have a clear line, I'm kind of bouncing around, and I think for a moment there I may have lost my GPS. So let's get back on that a little bit. So, interesting thing, you know, I would have said up to the point of coming upon that accident and the other things that had happened on the vacation and all the overextension that I made on my planning, that it was definitely not one of the top vacations in my life. Always great to see family, but driving 3,500 mile round trip vacation in about 10, 12 days, that's a little too much. So I was saying, this was not the top vacation. So we were coming back, getting on towards Las Vegas. I don't know how many of you know about Tonopah, little town out in the middle of the, as I say, nowhere part of Nevada. We stopped, got something to eat, walked the dog, those necessary little things that we have to do when we have a puppy dog with us. I might say, not one accident in the car. So that's why she's top of the list. So anyway, so we stopped, got back on the road. We aren't 10 miles down the road, and I have what I think is a torn retina. It's a little bright light spot on the side of my eye, and some various blurring and that sort of stuff. We got 2 hours plus from Las Vegas. You know, so I'm praying, man. I am really praying, because I know if I told Becky, she'd have been totally freaked out about it, because she did have a torn retina, and she had to have emergency surgery to save her vision. So, there, boy, no, can't do anything here, out in the middle of nowhere, driving down the road. So I continue on, do some praying, and some of the effects of it seem to dissipate. Get into Las Vegas about 9, 10 o'clock night. Nowhere to even go there. We also knew from what Becky knew about it, that it's very important to do something, but you have a day, maybe 2 days time frame in which to get things done. The conditions seem to have improved some. Anyway, next morning, go to the doctor, actually go to the emergency room, which sends us to a doctor, and he evaluates it. He said, well, it's a torn viscus, which is another little part of the eye, which is relatively common, he said, particularly people of my age. So, no real damage as far as losing sight, you know. But I do have what they call floaters that resulted from that, and they bugged me quite a bit. But I can still see just fine out of it. But that was not a high point in the whole trip. This trip is turning out to be an awful lot like a microcosm of my life, or life in general. Things come, they happen, they aren't good, they are good, and it's all mixed together. So at this point, I'm really kind of saying, this is not a good vacation. Not a good one at all. So we wound up in Las Vegas. We do have our members of the timeshare. They don't normally take people who just walk in. You have to have a reservation, oftentimes 6 months or more in advance. They say, oh, we'll make an exception for you. So here we are there, my grandson, let's go bowling, let's go bowling. So we went bowling. We found a bowling alley that was connected to a casino in another part of town. They only had 60 lanes. 60 lanes. How can you fill up? Okay. Oh yeah, that's 60 lanes. So we went there. We bowled, what was it, 6 or 8 games or whatever, and we practically had to drag him off the alley. Oh, just one more. My arm was falling off. Becky was smart enough not to even bother. So, anyhow, and so we decided we were going to stay more than the one night, a couple nights. So, guess what we did the next day? We didn't go swimming, you know. We went to the bowling alley, the bowl, more bowling. It was remarkable to see how much he improved in that short little time. Now, I took a nap in the middle part of that day, and Becky went down and took him to the activity center where they had a pool table and some other, ice hockey, foosball type games. He was also very interested in pool. What he didn't know is that my wife, when she was a teenager, had a pool table in her family room. So she knew her way around a pool cue. So they had a great old time down there doing that while I slept. So when I woke up, guess what it was? Let's go bowling. So we went bowling again. And those 2 days there in a resort in the middle of Las Vegas turned out to be the best 2 days. Yeah. When we start judging things when we're in the middle of them and things maybe not going the best, we are not allowing ourselves to look to the middle and end of the situation to get the benefit out of it. Yeah. I have a very positive feel about my vacation. But if you'd asked me the day that we'd gone into Las Vegas, that night, I'd have said, boy, this has to be the worst possible vacation ever. So, I think I'm getting a little wiser as the years go on. I'm better able to reflect on my life, the world as a whole, my Christian walk, that I didn't have, obviously, earlier. We all have the opportunity of our, not age, but our experience. You know, people think, start thinking about age as old. That age also falls into the category of experience. And they say there's no substitute for experience. There's only one way to get experience: by doing things, by living our lives, particularly our Christian lives, and being focused on that. And remembering that one of the things that God asks of us, is to spread the gospel to all corners of the world. And that includes next door. So we've got a nice community here, a lot of people here. We don't know probably 1/10 of them individually, maybe not even 1/100th of them. But we need to know our neighbors. We need to expose them to the opportunity to become a believer, because without being a believer, they can't go to heaven. What is our obligation as a Christian? To get everyone we can into heaven that's possible. Thank you. Let's take a moment here and pray. God's presence is here. Jesus is sitting here amongst us. So let's take a moment and pray for all of those who aren't here right now. that are generally in the wintertime part of our congregation. They're living their lives, and they're encountering things like or similar to what I experienced the last few weeks. Some of them need the healing hand of God. We have people in our own community that need the healing hand of God. We need to recognize His presence. We say it, where two or more are gathered, He is in our midst. But do we really, really, really feel that? Do we really have a sense of that? Words are easy to say in a lot of situations. But imagine that Jesus is sitting between you and the person next to you. Get a feel for that. Just like in the poem Footprints, He's always there with you. We just need to recognize that He is there. Thank you, Lord, for all that you do for us.